in doing watercolor painting, as a matter of fact, life is like a watercolor painting. Watercolor painting is really an experience with a series of accidents. You imagine what you want to do, and you put the water and some pigment on a sheet of paper, and those elements do what they wish to do, not what you want them to do. And you are constantly rescuing an image. Now, if what you do is less than satisfactory, you take a sponge or a wet cloth and you rub out the areas that you don't like, and you try to correct that. And if that doesn't work, you put the paper in a tub of water. And if that doesn't work, you crop it. You may cut it up the middle or cut it in thirds. And then if that doesn't work, you pick the paper up in your two hands and tear it back over. And that's a metaphor of life. So life is just a big watercolor painting. I think everybody's life is like that, don't you think so?
We aspire to it, yeah. What about life as a retired surgeon? What was that transition like, and was it reflected in your artistic work?
Well, I think it eventuated in the book because what happened at the age of 90, when I'd recently given up surgery. My wife passed on. I had the time to paint, and I generated a lot of paintings. And it was looking at that production that gave birth to the idea of putting it together as a book. I guess I really should visit the reason why I wrote the book, because it interacts with your interest and purpose. I wrote the book without any intention of writing such a tome, but upon reading and learning that ageism was being promoted with the idea that people over the age of 80 shouldn't bother trying to paint because it was beyond them. And it was with that realization that I thought, well, I ought to share my experience, because I found just the opposite. And I wouldn't say that getting older improves your painting, but it doesn't inhibit improvement. And the reason your painting may get better is if you have time to paint more. More than that, I should say, it's been a very warm and pleasant experience. I had no thoughts about what my painting was doing to my brain and how it was affecting me emotionally and cognitively. I was just doing it because I liked what I did. And it's a continuum of pleasurable stimuli in a sense, because you start out by thinking about what you want to paint, and you go through a long uh, period of searching for just what you want to do at this point. Then you select, you create a plan to create a particular image, um, and then you start to paint. Then you go through all the rescuing that I referred to before, but then you end up with a painting that you sometimes like very much, sometimes not so much, but you end up with an image that you did, and you are incredulous. I did that. And then I love to look at it. So in the joy of looking at it, well, first of all, the joy of doing it, but then the joy of looking at it afterwards continues the pleasurable experience.